Hey guys, if you're serious about trading stocks and options, here's a video that will illustrate some very important concepts that you would be able to utilize in situations when a stock rallies on crazy top situations, such as a positive trial announcement. So we're going to take a look in this video about a close look at two biotech stocks that have literally gone to the moon upon the announcements that they have made. And yet, I was utilizing two different strategies when it came to actually buying options on both of these different pharmaceutical stocks. So, question is, sometimes you just look at your screen, right, when you're trading, and you're like, oh my God, this thing just keeps going higher and higher. And you're like, what do you do? Well, sometimes this is the worst time to get in, is when you clearly see that the stock just keeps going higher and higher. So what is your action? What is your best time to get in? As you have probably watched a few videos here on our channel, I'm very proactive when it comes to, shorting stocks at the top. So how do you actually recognize when it's the top that you should short, and when is it the top that you should buy? So here we're going to take a close look at a phenomena. I've been talking about buying biotechs, literally since February, and there's a number of stocks that literally have doubled that I have recommended on this channel, such as ICPT. We recommended back in February, was trading at $50. It actually hit a high of $95 today. Spark Pharmaceuticals, ticker symbol ONCE, ONCE. Also we were recommending that when it was at $50 a share. It's been trading around 90 range. Hit a high of 94 not so long ago, and looks like it's going way higher. So if you're curious to find out which biotechs we're trading, this sentiment in biotech stocks is absolutely insane right now. But this video is specifically to be able to determine good entry points, right? And you're not going to be able to time your entry points perfectly down to a T every time, but understanding what's happening actually will make a huge difference whether you should be, using a short put strategy, or whether you should be going long. So here's an example of a stock that I actually posted a couple of videos on SRPT. Okay, so here's an example of a stock that rallies from literally $100 all the way to almost 176 in a matter of 5 minutes. Okay, for those of you that have taken the course, you clearly understand what this black candle means. This black candle actually represents that as the stock moved higher, institutional investors came in and they started buying the stock. So if you look at this accumulation distribution index, what you're going to see is, whoa, surprise, surprise. Like so, the stock goes higher, $76. So if you were just looking at the price action, what you'd be able to see is, whoa, everything is green. The stock just, oh my God, it's doubling. I should buy it. Well, take a look at the accumulation distribution. It's going to seriously show you an entirely different picture. So clear as you look at this, as the stock was going higher, the banks were coming in and they were liquidating their positions at this level. Now, is that a bad thing or a good thing? Well, clearly short term, that is a bad thing. But if you want to take a closer look at the SRPT, Sarepta Therapeutics, okay, what you will notice, what this represents is sort of a flag formation, which is a very bullish formation. So initially something may spike like crazy. Some people, of course, at these levels, I mean, they're almost doubling, tripling their money, so they are going to sell. So short term, we were actually bearish on the stock, and if you were a VIP day trader subscriber, you would have been able to capitalize on this drop from 170 all the way to 135, 140 level. Now, since then, had a number of students actually been asking me a question, well, should I be shorting this thing? I mean, it just looks like, geez, just look at this thing, right? I mean, it just drops and drops and drops. Like, what if it falls back to 103? Okay, that would be a nice short. And I know when you're actually looking at this chart, psychologically, that is exactly what you're probably thinking. Well, okay, when higher now is dropping, and therefore, I want to put a short position. Well, think about it this way. Why the stock would go up $76 in 5 minutes in the first place? Well, because the news were good. Because the news actually were not just good, they were much, much better than was expected by all the analysts and the investors. That's how you get these crazy spikes in the stock when they go almost 100, 200% higher at times. And yes, stocks do go. If you're wondering if, what the heck am I saying here? If you want to check out this stock recently, MDGL, ticker symbol MDGL, went from $120 all the way to $320, right, in just a matter of days. So we're observing some crazy behavior in a lot of biotechnology stocks, and this is an awesome time to get in because a lot of them are still trading close to their all-time lows, or they're not very high from their all-time lows. So as much as we're talking about market crash and a lot of stocks crashing here, I see a huge opportunity because I'm seeing a huge reversal from the bottom on the way higher in the biotechnology stocks. Okay, so what was the strategy here? SRPT. So looking at this chart, you may be thinking, okay, I want to short it. But why would you want to short it, right? Some people were buying it right here at 160, 170. That thought it was a good deal. Now the stock is at 130, 138 range. I think this represents a really great opportunity. This is what's been happening in the meantime. Actually, while the stock was dropping, better news came out as far as the potential of the drug. But more importantly, we're noticing a lot of new analysts coming in and raising the price targets on the stock. Now, typically, I don't listen to the analysts, okay? But what I do pay attention to is the general trend. And so when I see a lot of analysts raising the price targets for the very first time, that actually indicates to me that they're probably going to continue buying the stock. So I don't want to short the stock here. Number one, chart-wise, I'm looking at this as a bullish flag formation. So I think the stock is going to break out here and it's going to move higher back and revisit this 170, 180 level. And if it breaks through here on higher volume, we may see SRPT for predicts maybe 200, maybe even 230 range if it becomes a takeover target. Okay. Now, one of the things I don't like is the fact that, yes, after it's sold off, its accumulation distribution is its all-time low. So we really ideally want to see some people coming in and start buying this thing. Now, obviously, I cannot ignore this huge volume, which is the highest volume on the graph, which is a positive volume, and that is that day when it moved higher. Now, as tempting as it is to short, I would strongly encourage you to consider buying calls on this thing. And again, I'm a strong opponent to analyzing multiple charts on different time frames. So to help you visualize this case with more clarity, let's take a look at the weekly chart of SRPT. So as you can clearly see here, wow, things are looking pretty good. Very nice uptrend, right? It's trading above the 50-day moving line. It's trading above the 200-day moving line. RSI looks very bullish. You got sort of a bearish candle going on here, but I mean, that's understandable. When it shot to the moon, people came in and started taking profits, but overall, everything is very positive for the stock. There's really no reason to sell it besides locking in profits, right? It's not like there's some bad developments that, could impact the stock's foundation. Also, the MACD on the weekly is very, very bullish, right? It's the black line is way above the orange line, which suggests a very bullish trend. The volume looks very positive here as well. And if we take a look at the accumulation distribution on weekly chart, actually looks pretty solid. So when we go back and revisit the daily, apparently that sell-off in the accumulation distribution was just pertaining to that day where people were taking profits. So short term, we were able to profit from buying puts on SRPT. And since it's been falling to this 130, 135, 138 range, I've actually been quite bullish in the stock because long-term wise, and what do I mean long-term? Long-term, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. I honestly thought that, the stock could have moved easily way over 140 range today, but as you can see, I failed in my prediction there. It's been a couple of tough days, as far as predicting some of these things. Market just hasn't had a very clear direction, right? So I've gotten pretty close because I actually sent a recommendation to buy 140 calls that were expiring this week, and the stock was trading as high as 139.40. So we missed it literally by being in the money by less than a dollar there. But with stocks like that are capable of $76 moves in one day, anything can be expected. It could have easily moved instead of $4 higher today, or actually $6 higher today. It could have moved easily, 10, 20 bucks higher today. So some of these biotechnology stocks really represent, a huge momentum opportunity. So if you're trading options, I know your main objection is going to be, well, the spreads could be very high at times. Yes, but the spreads are high, guys, because some of these stocks, they represent some of the highest volatility stocks out in the stock universe out there. And that's why the options are going to be higher, because they represent a much greater opportunity from the standpoint of momentum breakouts. Now, so the main purpose of this video is to illustrate the difference, how one stock actually goes high, literally shoots to the moon by almost doubling its value in 5 minutes, and how we were actually advocating buying put options immediately after that huge run that very day, and profiting on the downside because the stock did drop from 176 all the way to 135 literally within 48 hours. And so now I'm going to show you, for comparison purposes, to make this case, another stock that literally went to the moon today. Just for comparison purposes, let's keep this in mind, okay? As SRPT was going higher to the moon, look, so it took off from 103 all the way to 176. So that literally represents about a 70% gain, right? So roughly in terms of price, it went up 70 bucks. Okay, just let's keep it simple. Now, the stock that literally went to the moon today was BIIB, or Biogen Pharmaceuticals. As you can clearly see, yesterday it closed under 300, and this morning it was trading pre-market at the 340, 345. As soon as the market opened, it was about 355. It literally shot up all the way to 370. So at one point, this stock was also up to the magnitude in dollar value, literally about the same as SRPT. That is why I'm using these two stocks, because I think they make a good case for observation and comparison. So this stock literally at one point goes up by $76 higher, literally in matter of minutes. We're not talking about an hour, guys. We're talking about literally, first 10 minutes of the market open, this stock literally goes all the way to almost $370 a share. Remember, yesterday it was under $300. So would you be shorting the stock at this point is the question. Okay, well, there's different answers, of course, you could be giving me right now, but overall, we're trying to analyze the difference between the chart of one stock that goes up by $76, and we're trying to compare it to this stock, which also goes up by as much as $76 within a very, very comparable amount of time, literally within minutes. Okay, so let's take a closer look here, and first let's establish this. How much is this stock? This stock was a $300 stock yesterday. Today it went up almost to 370. So that $70 move, how much does this really represent in terms of a percentage gain? Okay, well, without really doing a ton of calculating, okay, I think the price captured here in this chart is loss traded was at 355. That's just a snapshot. I'm not sure, it might have ended a couple of dollars higher or lower, as I'm making this video. But look, the bottom line, it went up roughly 20%. So we have a 20% rise in Biogen compared to what? If we go back here and we take a look again at SRPT. This $70 rise, even though numerically they are almost identical, however, this represented that day. Please don't pay attention to this because that was the change in the price today, not the day when it was going higher. But literally the day when that stock went higher, it represented the change of closer to 70–80% that day. So how does that change compare, right? On a gray day, you know, some of the best stocks in the industry, we can see them go up by 15, 20, 25%. Now, occasionally something crazy happens when a stock rallies and almost doubles in value. I'm not talking about penny stocks. It happens to penny stocks all the time where you see like a dollar stock that goes to $3, when you see a $3 stock goes to $5 within the same day. That is very typical for a penny stock. However, when we're talking about higher price stocks, okay, which will produce a way higher return from the standpoint of trading options, okay, so you know, if you don't trade a big account, just take note of this, that look, you may be trading penny stocks and you've got a few $1,000s in your account, but as far as returns and the percentage of returns, you can utilize the very reasonable amount of money and profit from the options in a much greater way, trading some of the bigger stocks, okay? So if you're wondering actually how to do that, just simply follow some of the links below this video and take action. Get a 20-minute free coaching call if you're trying to learn the difference between trading stocks and options. Very, very valuable, okay? Now, let's get back to our comparison. So SRPT goes 70–80% higher that day. BIB only goes up roughly 20, maybe 25%. So do you see the difference? When something goes up by a crazy amount, like 70–80%, naturally I do want to participate on what is coming, which a lot of times, I would say in 70–80% cases, you will see a pullback, right? Because people are going to come in, they are going to start taking profits. So when I see something just goes obnoxiously higher, to the extent of 70–80%, I do want to get on the short side. The question is, did I want to get on the short side of BIIB today? Well, the news were great about its drug, and so 15–20% higher is not reasonable. It is actually very reasonable in relation to the type of news that were reported. What's also notable, right? A lot of these moves, they're going to start taking place pre-market, after-market. Look at the size of this volume. Guys, check this out. This is absolutely insane, right? This stock literally traded as many shares pre-market as it actually traded. Literally, the average daily volume on this thing is about, 700–800,000 shares. It actually traded like almost 600–700,000 shares before the market even opened. Okay, now let's compare. How does this chart look? Remember, in SRPT, the accumulation distribution started off higher that day and it just kept falling throughout the day. Well, we're capturing this accumulation distribution at the low. So I'm seeing a totally different picture. I'm seeing that actually people may come in and start really getting participating and accumulating the stock after this good news. This may not be yet reflected in the chart, so it's a good idea would be to like refresh it, Monday, Tuesday, and see if you're actually going to see this black line turning higher. You can also go to your daily chart, and on my daily chart, the accumulation distribution initially spiked very high. It started going lower, but it picked up later in the day. Also, if you're looking at the MACD, look at how positive this looks. You see a complete reversal of the trend. In other words, if we're looking at this zero line here, where these blue bars are going in the negative, all of a sudden there's huge reversal of momentum and they're going positive. At the same time, the black line crosses the orange line, which is a very bullish sign. And I guess that also, the most craziest thing to me is like, geez, even Amazon doesn't trade 600–700,000 shares pre-market on some of the best news, and here you have, Biogen Pharmaceutical does that, right? And just look at how serious this volume is, right? This is literally, this bar exceeds all the other bars on this chart, but just drastically. Like, it's just, there's no comparison, right? So 10 million shares trades today. I mean, this is how good these news were. Okay, so volume wise, we're noticing the same thing, but it looks to me like all of this volume goes into just pushing this stock higher. Look also what happens to RSI. It jumps to an all-time high right here. Okay, now can we expect the stock going to 367 and pulling back? Absolutely. But overall, like observing this action right here and observing the differences in the graph, I have no reason to short the stock. Now, temporarily, you could have been brave and you could have gone short, when it maybe hit a rise of 25%, and you could have, gained some traction when it fell to maybe a low of only plus 17% for the day. And that could have been justified. Now, in my view, it was not as justified as in the case of, if we go back and we take a look at SRPT, right? So this is a 70-80% rise, and the stock dropped to a low that actually, that black low, the candle, it would be 135 right here. So that same day, you went from 170 to 135. So that was a $35 drop, really, in $100, $70 stock at that point. So to me, that was a huge opportunity. When we look at Biogen, right? Okay, so it hit 367. It went lower to about 341 in a day, and of course, it after that it bounced higher. Yes, you could have caught a great momentum. As actually one of my students shorted the stock when it was right about 365 range, and he made a very nice trade. So good job that he did on that. But those could be quite risky, guys, because everything was pointed out to a very, very bullish situation in the stock. And let me take you, as I like to do, and have you take a look at a different time frame to kind of bring the clarity, more clarity to the picture here. Okay. Well, actually, this is a 5-day chart I'd like to show you first before we look at the weekly chart there. So this is exactly what the stock did today. That's where it was yesterday, under 300. It rallies pre-market right here to the 340, 345 range. As soon as the market opens, look how huge that volume is. They just want to lift that stock. Or maybe some shorts came in and they were closing their shorts. And so that really produced that move higher right here. And see clearly after that, the stock's selling off all the way back to the 340, which was the support level that was established pre-market, right? And then the stock rallies higher all the way back to almost 360, ends up around 355 or so. Okay, so overall, very bullish chart, really strong volume, and some of the reasons why I could see why my student wanted to short the stock earlier, right, was because he looked at this situation on the weekly chart. Oh, geez, that's a double top. I mean, this is exactly where I come in. So a lot of times on this channel, we talk about, shorting stocks at the top. And this is ideal, right? You don't want to be shorting stocks. Clearly, if we were to completely disregard this part, and if you just saw the stock drop from 370, keep dropping and dropping and dropping, by the time we would have gotten here, you're like, geez, this thing is just going to keep dropping, right? But a lot of times when the stock has dropped substantially already, this is actually the worst time to come in and buy the stock, buy put options on that stock, because at that point there's a high probability of reversion. And the general rule of thumb to use is this, okay? If the stock has dropped 30-40% in a very short amount of time. What is a very short amount of time? 30 to 60 days. If the stock goes down 30-40%, like at that point, you're going to have some indicators, like in this case would be RSI, right? It was right at about 30 right here at the same point when it was hitting the low. So those were some indicators. Maybe the stock was getting oversold here, and this was probably the worst time to come in and short this thing. Okay. And so then you have some other indicators when the stock still trades at this 260 to 70 range, pointing out, look, the reversal is coming. And if we take a look at the volume, right, so huge sell-off volume followed by huge high volume. Now, if you knew the history of the stock a little bit, actually what happened today took the stock almost to the level it was traded back in January, February. when it started this huge drastic fall from 370 all the way to 250. Well, the same news, the stock actually started falling here for the very same news that it went higher. There was a rumor going on that the data that was revealed today that was quite successful, the reason the stock started falling here because they were saying the data was not going to be good, that the drug was going to have very poor results and it was going to be a failure, so the stock dropped from here to here. So exactly the opposite takes place. So the stock reaches almost that level. So if we just use the basic reasoning, like just forget about the charts for 1 second here, the reason why the stock was going higher because they had high hope in the drug in the first place. The reason it started falling was because there was a rumor that the drug was going to be a failure. The stock almost rockets back to that range. Now, on the contrary, being proven that the drug is actually going to be doing really well. So, what do you think is going to take place from here on? Observing the huge volume, observing the change in the momentum right here, right? What I'm looking at always is the probability whether a certain stock is going to be able to move higher above its all-time high. And here's what we got going on for this stock right here. Number one thing is there is a huge positive momentum in the entire universe of biotechnology stocks. So we've got that. We've got the sector performing extremely well. We have more and more biotechnology stocks that popping up almost every day, setting records. So the momentum in the biotechnology sector is extremely, extremely positive. If you don't know which biotechnology stocks to trade, by the way, simply click the link below. Actually, you'll have a chance to get my exact biotechnology stock watch list for a crazy offer. Okay, for those of you that are serious traders, for those of you that are serious stock traders, I mean, I've seen a number of these stocks just, they're growing like, mushrooms when there's just rain keeps growing every day. They're just, wow, they're like on drugs, these things. These biotechnology pharmaceutical drug companies, they're like on drugs themselves. These moves, we've seen them a few years ago, but then the whole biotechnology sector has really just come down, but we're seeing it really reverse and come back strong right now. So, but not every biotechnology stock is going to, give you a 15, 25%, 80% return. You really got to know which ones to look at. So if you're curious to know, click the links below and check it out. But so what's the point here? Why am I bullish on this thing? Well, because the same news that took the stock to this level of 370 before, it's the same news that took the stock back to this level today. And so if you look at the positive momentum that the stock had prior, I don't really view it as a double top as much as it looks like a double top, because I've got an increase in volume right here. I've got a very bullish indicator here in the MACD showing that the positive momentum is just the beginning. Now that makes me think, accompanied by the higher RSI right here, if the RSI gets in the next week above this range of 67, above this range of 70, we may see it in the green. We may see the RSI look like this. We may see the RSI actually doing something like this where it looks green, okay? And a lot of times it does that when it's considered to be oversold, but sometimes when it does get in this green territory above 70, it actually has a tendency to maintain its strength there, its relative strength, RSI, relative strength index, right? And so if it does continue to do that, in my view, we can easily see BIIB way over 400 mark. Yes, I'm saying this stock is going all the way to the moon, and the moon to me is not $1,000 a share. I'm just saying, look, it's going above probably 400 bucks over the course of the next 30 to 60 days. Now, I really didn't have any foundation to short the stock today, so I didn't. I sent out some alerts when the stock first opened, so depending on when you opened your trade, you could have had a huge gain. or you might not have had a huge gain depending on how fast you were actually executing that trade. So at this point, knowing that the stock is today at 356 after this huge move higher, I think we may see some consecutive moves higher. So I think it's definitely going to revisit that 370 level. Of course, one of the options, it could actually track sideways for some time without any huge moves, and at one point it does break above the 370 and it goes higher. So if you're skeptical, if you're thinking, no, geez, Leonardo, what the heck are you thinking today? I'm shorting this thing. I would say be very careful if you're trying to short this thing. I would probably wait till the stock actually breaks above the 370 level. My strategy would be to buy some calls now at the 370 strike, time-wise, 30 to 60 days. And then actually, when the stock does break above this 370 level and goes to all-time high, I would really observe the volume on which that breakout is done. If the volume is strong at the time the stock is doing that, then I would say after that it could be to 400, maybe 420 in days. Literally, we could see another move higher, 20, 30 bucks, and boom, it's really there at all-time high. So keep the stock on your radar. But again, the whole purpose of this video was to show you how different the picture on the chart could actually be, right? So we have accumulation here going from lower to higher. If I was to rehearse this accumulation picture with you on SRPT, let's go check it out, right? It actually looks like this on the shorter time frame, right? In other words, on SRPT, when a stock, they were accumulating the stock in the expectation of good news, and when it did go higher, 70-80%, they started taking profits. So it reversed to a norm of, still that's about 30% higher. But the news were exceptional, so it sort of justifies that. So from here, I think the stock goes higher, as long as the accumulation starts to move higher. And this thing sometimes could be deceiving. On the MACD, it just shows like these things coincide right now. So I'm really looking for this momentum to reverse higher from here, and in order for that to happen, we need to see some volume. So maybe if the stock analysts just keep rising the prices higher, that's going to take place there. Okay, so accumulation looks totally different. The volume in similar situations looks extremely bullish, but what we're getting is a totally different, right? This stock is on the verge of breaking its previous level, so the 370 could be a resistance here. But at this level of 350, I mean, this is sort of a bargain, because you can easily have $20 of upside, because I promise you they are going to move this stock back to the 370 level, and then it becomes a question of whether it's going to break that level higher or not. Okay, so it's quite that simple. Everything else looks good. Everything else looks bullish on this thing. So, give it some time. I'd give it 30, 60, 90 days if you're looking to buy some call options on this thing. Again, biotechnology sector is extremely bullish. I've given you some hot stocks, and if you missed that, I'll repeat myself again. ICPT, we were recommended on this channel, was 50 bucks. Now it's almost at 100. ONCE, Spark Therapeutics, recommended at 50 bucks. It's getting above 90 right now. So, and both of these stocks, they got room to run much higher. Now, there's obviously a lot of stocks that we don't get to make videos about, that we don't get to talk about on this channel. So if you're curious what they are, we have the long-term alerts, we have the VIP day trader alerts. If you're interested, simply click the links below, follow. If you're interested in learning how to read the charts, we have an amazing 6+ hours chart course showing you the divergences, show you all the specifics, all the details. So if charts are not your best friends yet, you can make them your best friends by clicking one of the links below. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll catch you in the next one.